The third season of Netflix's You released earlier this month, giving us another 10 skin-crawling episodes with everybody's favorite stalker serial killer, Joe Goldberg. With so many loose ends left behind in the tangled web of murderers and psychopaths, it was welcome news then when Netflix confirmed a fourth season is in the works. The theories are coming thick and fast. Will Joe find Marienne? Will Ellie return to the story? Is love really dead? Stay tuned because we're going to be diving into all of this. Will Joe find Marienne? Season 3 of You ended with Joe flying to Paris, determined to track down Marienne in the City of Love and pursue whatever messed up relationship the two could possibly have. It seems likely that Joe will eventually track her down. Tati Gabrielle, the actress who plays Marienne, and it would be rather disappointing sending Joe all the way to France without having some resolution between the characters. However, I wouldn't expect to see this all happen in the first episode. We could be looking at this as a long-term plot throughout the season. Paris is a huge city, and finding a single woman and her daughter could prove difficult, even for someone of Joe's stalker pedigree. This would also support the notion that the entire season could be set in France, a theory bolstered by Sera Gamble, the You showrunner, stating that it would be so fun to do a European season. Perhaps we will even see other European nations represented. Will Joe flirt with a Fraulein in Germany? Court an English lady? Freshening up the setting would be a fantastic way to breathe some new life into the show as it enters the fourth season. And hey, it's only fair that the US gets a break from all of Joe's insanity. What role will Matthew play? Joe and Love made a bit of a mess of their life together in Madre Linda, fumbling from one sloppy murder to another. For the most part, it seems Joe was able to tidy the whole thing up, but there is one loose end he neglected to sort out: Matthew, the husband of Natalie. His wife's disappearance prompted him to become suspicious of next-door neighbors Joe and Love, eventually going as far as to hire investigators to watch the murdersome duo. There is nothing to suggest that he knows for sure of their involvement in the killing of Natalie, but it seems highly unlikely that he will simply forget the entire ordeal now that Joe has skipped town. If anything, you'd expect the sudden fire-related death of his prime suspect to make Matthew even more suspicious. Once again, this entire theory is reinforced by the presence of Scott Speedman in the season 4 cast list, the actor who portrays Matthew in the show. Perhaps, having used his investigators to keep a tab on Joe, Matthew learns that he has vanished to France and decided to follow him there. It's interesting to note that it's highly likely Theo will also be in the new season, adding even further complexity to the entire situation. Will Joe have to get rid of Matthew to finally secure the fresh start he craves? Will Joe find someone new? It's probably somewhat of an understatement to say that Joe moves on quickly. He bounced from Candace to Beck, Love, Natalie, and finally Marienne in the space of only 3 seasons. Even when things are going well for him, as they were at the beginning of his new life with Love at the start of season 3, he is quick to fixate on new obsessions, and I can't see that trend being bucked in season 4. A large part of this theory relies upon what happens with Marienne if and when Joe finds her, with many believing that Marienne will reject Joe's advances. After all, she is quite aware of just how bad his vibes are, and she has a daughter to protect in all of this. There's a chance she might also be freaked out about the whole scenario of Joe following her to another country, but who knows? Maybe she'll find that romantic. If things do go south between the two, it could open up Joe to finding someone else to terrorize with his affections. That poor soul. Of course, there's also the chance that being refused will only cause Joe to double down in his pursuit of Marienne. Perhaps she will respond by taking matters into her own hands? There are countless possibilities. These are all huge questions that could have huge implications on what goes down in season 4 of You, but there are still plenty more theories surrounding the fates of some characters and the plans for others. Perhaps more important than all, is Love actually still alive? Let's dive into that one. Is Love alive? You has played the fake death card before. Through all of season 1, Joe is convinced that his ex-girlfriend, Candace, is dead on account of the massive rock he shoved her head against. And you know, that's actually a pretty fair assumption. But in the land of TV magic, nothing is certain until we see a funeral scene. And in the finale of the first season, Candace made a return looking very much alive. This fact has helped fuel the speculation that Love may indeed have survived the ending of season 3, and will be set to confront Joe at some point in season 4 as an echo of what Candace did at the first season's climax. How likely is this? Well, we need to examine the circumstances of Love's alleged death. We never see her body being burned during the house fire started by Joe, and so it could have been possible for her to slip out of the house, saving herself from the flames. But what about the poison, I hear you ask? Well, Love was far more experienced with using poisons than Joe, so it could stand that she knows of a way to survive the effects of the aconite Joe injected her with. That is at the very least. My instinct would be that you won't pull the same trick twice, and that Love is really dead. But with no funeral scene, you can never really know, can you? Will we see Ellie again? We last saw Ellie at the tail end of season 2, and though she was absent throughout all of the third season, the show continued to make reference to her with payments Joe was sending to help her survive in hiding. Ellie is in a rather unique position, as she knows of Joe and Love's involvement in the murder of her sister Delilah, and of Joe being the one who murdered Henderson. Despite all of this, Joe has not made an attempt to kill her, and with him having faked his own death, it now leaves him in quite the bind with regards to keeping his still being alive a secret. You see, now that he's apparently dead, he will have to stop sending money to Ellie, or risk her finding out that he didn't die in the house fire. But if he stops sending her money, what's to stop Ellie from finally coming forward with what she knows? It's a catch-22 situation that leaves Joe exposed either way, and seeing how Ellie responds should be fascinating. Jenna Ortega, who plays Ellie, has not been confirmed as part of the season 4 cast yet, but it seems impossible that the show won't address the relationship between her and Joe at some point in the coming future. What will happen to Henry? Perhaps one of the kindest acts Joe ever actually committed, he gave up his son Henry during the finale of season 3, leaving the child on the doorstep of Dante and Lansing. This accomplished two positives in both protecting the kid from Joe's, we call it turbulent lifestyle, and also giving Dante and Lansing the chance to raise a child after trying so long to adopt one. But there is evidence to support that this is not the last we will see of Henry, or even the last of Joe's involvement with his son. For starters, Joe leaves a letter for Henry, the contents of the letter expressly being for Henry to read when he is older. Could this be a confession? An explanation? Nobody has any real way of knowing, but it definitely suggests that the door isn't entirely shut between Joe and his kid, for better or for worse. Adding to this, there's also the Dottie factor. Love's mother and the grandmother of Henry, we already know that she has tried to win custody of Henry from Dante and Lansing. Though she may have been unsuccessful in the court, she has already proven that she doesn't walk away from a fight. The fact that she's kidnapped the baby before is also of concern. Watch out for her in season 4. Will we learn more about Joe's half-brother? Throughout season 4, we're treated to a peek into Joe's less than ideal upbringing. Flashbacks that show us snippets of his childhood. In these flashbacks, we learn that Joe has a half-brother. This new child being raised by Joe's mother after Joe himself has been placed into a group home. With Joe's death being a massive piece of news at the end of the 3rd season, could it be possible that Joe's mother and half-brother hear of the events? And how would they even react? It could be very interesting, especially given the hatred Joe likely has for his half-brother. And that, fellow serial killers, is that. That is all of the major theories out there with regards to what will happen in season 4 of You. Are there any we missed? Do you think any of these theories will actually come true? Be sure to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay far away from anyone who looks even slightly like Joe Goldberg.